Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share the project that I'm developing right now. So in this project, I'm trying to dig deeper into the forces that motivate partisan polarization around climate change and opposition to climate action among large portions of Americans. So while in previous times, climate change may have been an issue that seemed sort of distant and abstract, its effects have become increasingly clear and dramatic. Yet even as these experiences of risk, danger, and loss multiply, large numbers of Americans are unmoved by calls that something must be done to address climate change, and some are deeply opposed to the idea. So at the sort of root of this project is this question of why are so many Americans apathetic or even hostile to climate action? So in this project, I propose that apathy, contentiousness, and partisan polarization around climate change can be better understood by conceptualizing American climate change politics as a form of status politics, as a way that various groups in American society seek to have their skills, tastes, and identities recognized and socially validated. In particular, I argue that fights over climate science and climate solutions become meaningful for members of the American public because they are tied into struggles over the social worth of their own skills and identities, particularly those related to social class and masculinity. So by reimagining climate politics as less a question of the comprehension of scientific facts and more as a struggle over the symbolic worth of group identities, this project seeks to provide a new interpretive lens for understanding what's at stake in climate change politics for many Americans, leading a substantial portion of Americans to accept increased danger and loss rather than ally themselves with movements and elites they see as hostile to intimate aspects of their sense of self. So I plan to explore this theoretical framework by focusing on two significant areas of climate change contestation: fights over climate science and fights over personal consumption practices. In each of these areas, I will examine how political elites and members of the American public mobilize, elevate, and denigrate key symbols of social identities that increasingly divide partisan groups. In particular, as more highly educated Americans increasingly identify with the Democratic Party, I propose that discourses and political appeals about climate science may have polarized in the degree to which they valorize technical expertise and academic knowledge. For example, opponents of climate action may have shifted historically from a position that disputes the conclusions of mainstream climate science, but continues to embrace the principles and unique authority of science itself, to one that instead rejects the authority of scientific experts and voices moral distrust and disdain for scientific institutions more broadly. In this way, we can understand partisan fights over mainstream climate science as sort of proxy battles over the symbolic worth of educational achievement and the status afforded to technical expertise in contemporary American society. Similarly, as the gender divide and partisan affiliation grows, we might similarly expect polarization in the degree to which supporters and opponents of climate action invoke gendered identities and practices as worthwhile or under threat, such that we can understand partisan fights over personal consumption practices, such as consumption of meat and animal products, as proxy battles over the symbolic worth of hegemonic masculinity. So my hope is that this analysis can lead to insights about the emotional and symbolic meaning of climate politics for many Americans and what drives mobilization, apathy, and polarization around this issue in the United States. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to developing this work with you all at the Cogut Institute this semester.